Perhaps one of the most overlooked or ignored murder stories is perhaps the story of Sylvia Likens. The murder did occur in 1965, and she was actually the daughter of carnival people, or carnies. She had been left with a woman named Gertrude, who had agreed to watch both girls for the fee of $20 a week. And obviously the parents left the girls behind while they were out working because they did not want their daughters to miss out on their schooling. Unfortunately, Gertrude was not all upstairs. Occasionally she would vent out her anger and frustrations on the girls whenever the parents' payments would arrive late, and eventually did focus on beating the older daughter, Sylvia. Eventually this became so severe that Sylvia actually passed away 3 months later after living with this woman. During the course of this time, she of course did endure beatings. She was burned, she was cut. Towards the end, she was actually just locked in a basement, and forgive my crudeness, but she was forced to consume her own waste. So one of the more recent films, or one of the more current films dealing with this case, is a fictionalized or loosely based account written by Jack Ketchum, and it was called The Girl Next Door. The film, which was released in 2007, also has the exact same title, and does seem to follow the book fairly closely. I believe the book was written in 1989. But both girls' names obviously have been changed. The older daughter, Sylvia, is now referred to as Meg, and the younger sister's name, Jenny, has been changed to Susan. And the film is actually, the film and novel are both basically told in a memoir type format. We have a older man just remembering past events, obviously from a very horrible past. Rather than actually being taken care of by the mother of one of the girl's friends, they have come to live with their Aunt Ruth after their parents have passed away. And everything is fine at first. Narrator David obviously does chronicle this as well, but everything's fine at first. Everything just kind of takes a gradual turn before becoming worse. But there is an actual scene in which Meg sort of runs into David at sort of a fair or an eatery, and she's asking to borrow money to purchase something to eat. David has no more money, but after finding out that she hasn't eaten for 2 days, gives her the burger that he just bought. So things do go on this way for a bit, and it isn't long before she is locked in the basement. Basic same, more or less premise. She's being physically abused, she is cut and burned, but she's being sexually abused as well. And she is basically humiliated on a daily basis in front of a group of children who wander into this psychotic woman, Ruth's home. Apparently she allows just any neighborhood child to wander into her house, occasionally gives them a beer. But we also get an idea of just how insane this woman really is. She has this incredible knack for convincing you that her ideologies are correct, and that they make perfect sense, when obviously listening to this from a rational standpoint, you'd realize what she's saying is just completely off the wall. So eventually David does attempt to help Meg and Susan escape. He is of course captured, also locked into the cellar, and fearing that they're all going to be murdered, makes an escape attempt by starting a fire. Eventually during the struggle, when obviously the house members realize what's going on, there's a patrol vehicle nearby. They're drawn to the fire and obviously inspect, find out what is going on. And Meg is taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, she isn't taken soon enough, and she does pass away. Obviously, in the actual case, everyone who did participate in these beatings and added or helped the murder to occur were obviously tried. They were all given life sentences, but unfortunately they were eventually released, which I don't believe is fair. I mean, obviously Sylvia was never able to grow up. have a family of her own and get married, yet these people who murdered her were allowed that luxury, and that's very despicable, what they did to her. One of the prosecutors on the case actually described it as one of the most terrible crimes to have taken place in the state of Indiana, and definitely very much so. The actual home in which the murder took place stood empty for roughly about 44 years, and was eventually just torn down, and I believe in 2009 the property was turned into the parking lot for a church. But it's definitely a very good film, definitely not for the squeamish. It is difficult subject matter to have to deal with, and obviously the case itself was just very much to take in for anyone. But it's definitely very well written, very well acted. It's definitely coming from a very respectful standpoint of view in order to tell this girl's story. And you know, if you do feel you are up to it, it really is a great story, definitely worthwhile. But that is pretty much all I have for you today. I will talk to you later.